Great. So I think we should start now. Welcome, Preeti ma'am, to their Career Mentors, and welcome all the attendees as well. Today's topic is education demands in post-COVID-19 world. Preeti ma'am will be conducting this session for the next 55 to 60 minutes, and after that, she'll be taking question and answers. In between, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat or in the Q&A section so that Preeti ma'am can answer it at the end of the session. Thank you. Over to you, Preeti ma'am.
Thank you, Suruchi. And it's wonderful to see the people coming here well in advance and sending in a good evening to me, a good evening to all of you. I'm so thrilled to be presenting this webinar to all of you here. And my request to you is rather than posting questions on the chat, rather put it into Q&A because I would be able to take it up towards the end of the session. I hope to answer most of your questions during my presentation. So if anything remains unanswered, please post them in the Q&A so that I can take it up towards the end of the session and hope to answer all your queries during this session. Okay, so to begin with, let's do an ice-breaking exercise because I cannot see you all. Usually I'm used to making presentations where people are there and doing workshops where I see them, I can really connect with them. But here I cannot see you all. So let us do an ice-breaking session. And because I really believe that experience is the best way of learning. So I would really want you all to experience something. And once you experience it, you will really be able to relate to what I am going to present today. So please sit back, all of you, comfortably in your chair. And I'm going to do a visualization exercise with you all. Please experience it, go through it, and then you will be able to understand how this whole thing works out. Okay? So sit back comfortably in your chair, hands on your thighs. Take a deep breath in. Imagine that you are holding two whole-sized lemon in both your hands. Close your eyes. Make a tight fist around the lemon that you are holding in your palm. As you make a tight fist, try to extract every drop of juice that is there in the lemon. Not a single drop of juice should be left out. Now press harder and harder. Muster all the strength in your body. Every muscle, every organ, every part of your body is putting as much pressure as you can into your palms to extract every drop of juice that is there in that lemon. The whole of the juice needs to be extracted harder and harder, even more hard. Press your feet against the floor harder and harder. The whole of your energy is concentrated on your fists in which you are holding the lemon and you are pressing it so hard that every drop of juice is extracted out. And now, after you have tried as hard as you can, just let go. Just let go. Just drop the lemon out of your hand and take a deep breath in. Well, audience, I think you're good to go now. And I would like you all to take a poll so that I get to understand whom I'm addressing and whether you are really linked or connected to the process that we are going to follow now. So you can go to the polls column and there are a few questions. You can start polling so that I get to understand you all because it's really important to understand whom I'm addressing. So please start the poll. Wonderful, wonderful. Wow. So we have got a lot of teenagers also here. It's really nice to see students are interested. And people between 40 to 50 and 20 to 40 are actually competing with each other, but the highest is for people between 40 to 50. Okay. So now the next question comes up is, okay, here for you to do it. Okay. So most of the females, they are really interested. So okay, great, great, great. Okay. Now we go to the next one. The next question is, did you feel the stress in your muscles? While we did the lemon exercise, a few of you all joined a little later, but I would really want to know who all did this exercise. Did you all feel, oh my goodness? Okay, okay, yes, right. So, okay, great, 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 great going. Yes. Okay, so 75% people actually felt the stress in their muscles. The others who did not feel properly, probably they were not closing their fists, or because I could not see you all. But otherwise, in this exercise, if you do it, you will actually feel the stress in your muscles if you really close your fists tight and putting all the energy into it. Okay, right? Now, the people who have felt stress in their muscles, I would really want them to tell me, like, for how long could you keep this stress in your muscles? What is the duration for which you could have sustained this stress in your muscles? How long could you have done it? Okay, well, yes, great. Okay, you all are an awesome audience, I should tell you. Great. It's really wonderful to be interacting with you. Yes. So, okay. So maximum, most of you feel that you could not have done it for more than 5 minutes actually. Okay. So great. So now we are ready to go actually get into our this presentation. We are ready to go get in. Yes. So the majority of you feel that you could not have kept that stress within your muscles for more than at least for more than 5 minutes. Okay. So now the condition is, if you cannot sustain that stress within your muscles for more than 5 minutes, this kind of problem, like have holding the stress within your muscles for 5 minutes, the muscles actually are the best way of finding out what kind of damage stress can do physiologically to a person. The thing is, when we have mental stress, we do not actually realize that we are actually building it within ourselves. It's just like a pressure cooker. So initially you do not realize it till the pressure is full, and then it just blows out, one fine day when we are not even mentally prepared for it. But the same way, it's the safest and the easiest way of finding out what stress can do to us and our body is by feeling it in our muscles. And that this is what happened, this is the experience that I gave you all just now. Feeling the stress within your muscles, when you felt it, it was difficult to hold it for more than 5 minutes. But what happens in our real life, we carry stress within ourselves, not realizing what damage it is doing to us, and as a result it leads to long term damages within ourselves, which I will let you know later on. And believe me, learning cannot happen if we have a stressed mind, and stressed mind cannot actually think well. So let me give you an experience of a very simple breathing exercise that will show you how you can Really relax yourself anytime you're going to do learning activity or anything for that matter, because decision making cannot be done when you are stressed out, okay, or you are feeling any kind of trauma or stress within yourself or any negative emotion for that matter. So please sit back comfortably in your chair. Once you sit back comfortably in your chair, keep your hands on your thighs. Take a deep breath in, hold it for a second or two, and exhale out of your mouth with an ah sound like this. Take one more deep breath in, hold it for a second, exhale out of your mouth with an ah sound. Feeling release till the tip of your finger and toes. One more deep breath in and feel release in the whole of your body. Get this feeling of release in your body and slowly open your eyes. This deep breathing, inhaling from your nose, holding it for a second, and breathing out through your mouth with an ah sound, actually helps us to calm down and relax. Because when we are stressed, we cannot do any kind of thinking, because we use prefrontal cortex, the forehead portion of our body, we use it for thinking, for cognitive functions. We use this. And if we are stressed, the prefrontal cortex does not work and we go into survival mode. Survival mode means the our limbic region starts to function, and we can do only three things at that time, which are fight, flight, or freeze. So you would have seen when people are stressed, or they are really low, feeling low, or some kind of problem is troubling them a lot, then those people were under certain simple triggers, so the threshold limit for tolerance becomes very low, and you will find them fighting or hitting others, or simply, running away from the situation. If they cannot run away physically, you will find that these people are present in their body but absent in mind. You might have found students also a lot of times in school where they are sitting physically within the classroom, but because they find the situation very stressful or they are bored. Boredom is also a form of stress, because if they are finding the activity really tiresome or they are not able to relate to it, what they do is they are physically present there but mentally they are absent, so they run away from that situation. And the third one is freezing. So a lot of times, like when you ask questions from students, they are not able to answer, or people in different situations, they just blink, so they just freeze. So stress can do all these things to you. So being under stress is not a good way of preparing your mind for learning activity to happen or even thinking to happen. So please use this breathing exercise, which is very simple, and you can do it anywhere, anytime, and it will help you to feel stress free. Okay, so let us now embark on this webinar. Let's go further. Okay, overnight changes impacting emotions and lifestyle. Yes, this is what happened. We were not prepared for this lockdown to happen. We did not know, we were not used to this kind of life, and it happened overnight. We did not have any time to prepare ourselves for the changes that were going to happen in our life. We had not even expected this. And suddenly the closure happened, and we thought probably it is for a week or two, and we will come out of it. But now it is indefinite. We do not know how long this is going to continue. The lifestyle of people got impacted so badly that initially they adjusted to it, but slowly they started feeling what they were missing out. Social distancing norms did not allow people to meet their friends, and people who were used to this kind of life and were not prepared mentally for accepting this change that has hit them suddenly, all of a sudden, are really finding it very difficult to cope with the situation and manage their mental state in this kind of a situation, So because of this, actually, if you go online, you will find the sale of antidepressants and drugs taken for depression has gone up by 35%. So you just imagine that 35% more people are now taking those drugs. So loneliness is also a real big cause, because people were so used to that kind of lifestyle and they're finding it very difficult to manage with this whole situation. So it has certainly impacted the emotions and the lifestyle of people, and causing a lot of trauma and stress in them. So now, because we are dealing with education demands, so I will focus on educational institutions and the kind of impact this lockdown and closure is going to have on the educational sector. Okay, so most of the educational sectors and organizations and institutes, ranging from schools, colleges, universities, are actually facing a lot of hardship, and their future is really uncertain. They do not know what really awaits them. A reason being, like if you look at this next slide, like a lot of parents and people whose children are still in school or colleges feel that private institutions are demanding hefty fees, and it's really difficult for them to pay. But you believe me, the educational institutions were also not prepared for this, and most of the educational institutions usually collect their fees by March end, when the exams are over and the schools declare the result. So a lot of educational institutions did not even collect the fees, and a few others who collected the fees would have done it for a quarter or just half of the term. Okay, so they are either prepared for up to June, they have funds, or up to August at the most they have funds. So they do not have funds, but the expenses are there. They have to pay the salaries of all the maintenance staff, the transport staff, the caretakers, the teachers, everybody. They have to pay them the salaries, and the maintenance cost is also there. So how do they manage? Because the funds are restricted there, and so they have to ask the parents only. And on the other side, the parents find it very difficult to pay the fees to the institutions. They are asking for installments. Many of the parents, because they have lost their jobs or their salaries have been cut down, and many of them, they do not know how they are going to financially manage. So they are moving to their villages. A lot of them moving into their villages so that they can cut down on their expenses and the cost of living. And this is actually causing a lot of hardship. So a lot of educational institutions future is actually in dark. And the other problem that has cropped up is like the online institutions that take classes. They are actually trying to attract as many students as they can, and offering them good discount rates, and of telling them that okay, we offer online classes for any stream for that matter, and you can join us. So they are offering really attractive terms and discounts to the parents, uh, to grab them and make them join these institutions. And the problem here is, they have already been in this field, and technologically they are prepared for this kind of dealing with the clients and presenting online classes for the students. So technologically they are advanced and they are already prepared, and the teachers have to compete with these online institutions, whereas these teachers have not been trained or are not technically advanced or prepared for this kind of a scenario. So they are finding it really difficult to compete with them. So actually, this kind lockdown has thrown open the doors to competition, and the teachers are no longer competing with the teachers within their organization, but they are competing with the teachers worldwide. The competition is open now. But one advantage that the schools have here, schools and universities for that matter, they have here is the connect and the bond that the students have with their teachers, that love for the teachers. You believe me, like my daughter at times says, I really miss my school because I'm missing some of my teachers whom I loved so much. That connect and that bonding is so important for students. So this is one area in which the schools can really work and reach out to their students and the parent body for support, because that connect and that bonding can never come through faceless institutions that provide online coaching or online training to the students. So the human connect and the bonding is something which will actually help educational institutions to survive. And in the meantime, we will have to really prepare ourselves and gear ourselves and prepare technologically in order to address the demands of the future, because we are competing now in the open market. We have no other alternative. Okay, so the next thing is, yes, the future is really uncertain. And when the future is uncertain, how do we prepare for it? Like, nobody knows. Even the experts are just guessing. So when we are guessing, how do we prepare ourselves? We do not know what awaits us. So in such a situation, when we do not know what the future is going to be, rather than worrying about the future, we need to make ourselves strong in the present. And how do we do that? Well, for that, we need to really consider and think it over. What is the purpose of school? So I would really want you all to type out in the chat box what, according to you, is the purpose of the school, because it's something very, very important that we need to consider and think about. So I would request all the participants here to at least start typing, to just show me, like, according to you, what is the purpose of school? Yes, I would really be interested to see some of the responses here. What, according to you, is the purpose of the school? Because that will really take us forward to make us understand what awaits us and how we need to prepare ourselves for the future. Well, I think everyone is so involved in listening to me, no one is actually responding. So let me go to the next slide. According to me, what I feel is the purpose of school, according to me, is educating ourselves and learning. Okay. So now, what are the skills required to be successful in your current profession or dream profession? I, those who are actually professionals, I would really want them to type out in the chat box here. What skills, according to you, help you to be successful in your current profession? If you are a student, you might have a dream profession of your own. So, would you like to type it out here? Wonderful, wonderful, great, great, great. Vimla says, be at par with others when we enter the world for work and society. Wonderful, Vimla. Joyful learning and explore their own. Okay. Sudha says, peer interaction and relation with others. Revati says, knowledge and skill resource center. Rashmi says, school is to acquire knowledge. Wonderful. To design career by educating. Wonderful. Awesome audience. Yes. Raghuram says adaptability. Prema says communication. Ravinder Malik says, okay, okay, okay. So now you have come to the next question. Sujata says reading skills. Okay, these are important, right? Great. Okay, fine, fine, fine. So, awesome audience. I think you are really giving me a very good feedback here. Yes, answering the questions. Archana says, yes, they built my confidence. The school built your confidence. Okay, you gain knowledge. Suhana, yes, says she gained knowledge from school. Anurag says excellent communication level. Atharva says to prepare good human beings and be happy. Wonderful skills which I was good at. However, don't know whether I am at same profession. Yes, very true, very true. This happens for a lot of us. Okay. Right. Great, great. Wonderful. So I would really want you all to remember the answers that you have given to these questions. And towards the end of this webinar, I would like you all to introspect and see if you would like to change your answers. Some of the answers that you have given me about the purpose of school and what you feel about it towards the end of the session. So please remember the answers that you have given. Okay. So now I go to this. I hope all of you drive, right? Okay. So even if you don't drive and you are aspiring to be a like have your own vehicle if you're not yet 18, then I'm sure you know about the rear view mirror and all of you use it while driving, right? Yes. So the thing is, we do use the rear view mirror when we are driving because obviously we want to be safe when we are on the road and we do not want to meet an accident or all those things. But just imagine if you are traveling at the speed of light. At that speed, when you are traveling, would you still be looking at the rear view mirror? Well, I would want you all to tell me. Would you still be looking at the rear view mirror if you are traveling at the speed of light? This is my question. And I would really want you to. Okay, so now we have moved on, Anurag. So I would really want you all to look into this and say, yeah, Aditi, yeah, wonderful, yes. Not possible. Great, yes. So I'm sure everyone will say no to this, that they will not look into the rear view mirror when they are traveling at the speed of light. So the thing is, we have already entered into the telematic revolution. What is telematic revolution? See, 3 days back there was hailstorm in New Delhi, North India and Delhi. It happened, and it did not even take 5 minutes for the video to arrive on my WhatsApp account and Facebook. I could see the video there that the hailstorm has happened. So, in the telematic revolution, we are flooded with latest information, like the information which was new yesterday would become old today. And imagine that we are still making our children read and learn and appear for exams using textbooks which were printed probably 50 years back and printed in the sense designed, and the lot of content is as old as 50 years back, and we are still using that and making the children learn all those things, teaching them from those books and making them appear for exams. Okay, testing their knowledge based on those books, whereas the information, latest information is flooding the market. Do you think this kind of learning will help our children when they go into the job market? Because they have all along been looking at the rear view mirror. They are not looking forward and thinking about self development and growth with a view to the market that is flooded with latest information that is available. Okay, so the thing is, in telematic revolution, you need to be updated with information that is available on the media, on the net, because it is just flooding in. Only thing is, you need to be aware from where you get the right kind of information, and you should be able to understand that. If you are able to do that, you are moving actually forward. But if you are looking at the rear view mirror, I'm sorry to say, the thing is, you have outdated information or knowledge. You might get a degree and pass exams, but the thing is, it is not preparing you actually for the future. And the market, it's ruthless now. The thing is, with COVID-19, things are changing so fast that whatever we expected would take 5 years to happen is happening right now. There is no more time left now. Okay, so now what do we do? So the answer, actually, I was looking out for it. I did not know. I was in doubt myself. And I came across this beautiful shloka in Bhagavad Gita, which reads as such: Shreyan swadharmo vigudah paradharmat swanushthitat swadharme nidhanam shreyah paradharmo bhayavahah. It is better to strive in one's own dharma than to succeed in the dharma of another. Nothing is ever lost in following one's own dharma, but competition in another's dharma breeds fear and insecurity. The thing is, we all know that sugar and salt, they both look alike, they look same, but the intrinsic characteristic or the essence of both the things is very different from each other. The place where you can use sugar, it cannot be replaced by salt. A little less sugar in a dish that you are preparing, sweet dish that you are preparing, is okay. But the thing is, if you add salt to it, you cannot eat it even. So the thing is, we have to understand our own intrinsic abilities. We are all born special with a specific purpose to contribute something to this world and to the society. And we can do that only by really looking deep within ourselves and identifying ourselves and understanding our true identity. Once we understand that, we will be able to master the skill that we are born to do, to the whatever we are we are designed to contribute something to the society, and we will be able to do that only when we understand our true identity. Okay. For this, I would like to share an experience with you. In our school, like, we came across a child who came from a different place. And this child, when he came, he is autistic and he was having epileptic seizures. And this child had been so traumatized because he was forced to write and he could not write, and the kind of the pressure that he faced due to exams and other things put a lot of stress into him. And the result of long term stress in this particular child was that he would go on chanting Vedic shlokas because it helped this child to remain calm and relaxed. So this child was brought to our school, and then we noticed the child that when the teachers used to teach in the class, he used to go on chanting slokas. If the teacher raises her volume, his volume would go up. Okay, so he would try to drown the voice of the teacher in his Vedic chanting so that he does not have to listen to her over a period of time. Now, about this child that I was telling you, this child is now, it's been 3 years. His epileptic seizures have completely stopped. He is off medication for seizures now. And recently, the parents, they had gone to Rameshwaram. And to their surprise, when in a temple the priest was chanting the shlokas, this child started chanting along with the priest. And the people started turning and looking at the kid. The parents were also surprised because they did not know that this child already knows this Vedic chanting. And then it was like, everybody was blessing this particular child. So you just imagine. And now all the problems have stopped, and this child is socializing and he is improving in his cognitive skills. And it is amazing to see this child uh, blossoming as a person, as a human being. So believe me, if this is the right time for you all to understand what your true identity is, what is the true identity of your child, because once the true identity is established and a person is encouraged to work towards his strengths, even if he's trying a little less, because he enjoys the work, the learning that is happening, because it is his strength and he's made for that, you will see the best comes out of the person. Because now is the time when we need to be the master of whatever we do. Okay, rather than just trying to copy others and do whatever others are doing and trying to learn the skills that for which we are actually not made. So this is the real thing. So self awareness is a key to self mastery. So once you are aware of yourself and you start training yourself in those skills, you are going to be the best, and nobody is going to beat you at that, because now the competition is worldwide, open for all. And in order to survive in this kind of uncertainty, we need to prepare ourselves and be the best and the master of whatever we do. Okay, so now here This is the continuous learning model by Burson, by Deloitte's continuous learning model. In this learning model, like you will see, it is applicable to any kind of profession, any kind of learning, any kind of scenario. So in the intermediate state, we just try to survive by performing the work that we do to the best of our ability. So that is just being in the survival mode. In the intermediate role, we try to improve our skills in that particular work so that we are able to maintain our focus on that and improve our skills. But in the transitional phase, if you really want to compete with others and really grow yourself as a professional, in that case you will have to go on learning and improving yourself and proving yourself and growing better by the day. So your good should grow better with each passing day, and the competition has to be with self and not with others, because you are traveling at the speed of light and you cannot be looking at others while you are working on yourself. So the whole thing is identifying yourself, building your true identity, learning about your skills, and then improving yourself and mastering your skills and getting better by the day. And your good gets better with each passing moment and day. So train yourself well. Okay, so educators and policymakers worldwide, they agree that certain skills are very, very important to survive in the future. So independent learning is the most important one. So the students should be able to learn on their own rather than depending on anybody for teaching them. So learning through success and failure, like we have to embrace failure. Only when we embrace failure and we are not afraid of failing in whatever attempt that we take, only then we can move forward and really learn. Because what happens is, if we have a fixed mindset and we are afraid of making mistakes, then we cannot venture into things which are new to us and we would never try. Okay, so the thing is that depletes our confidence level. So when you are not afraid of making mistakes and you keep trying, your experience grows and your wisdom builds, and with experience and using your wisdom, you are prepared for the future and for the situations, and that helps you to grow into a better learner and a better person, which is the growth mindset. Okay, so the collaboration and networking skills, being able to work in a team, your persistence, how you take up challenges in your life, these are the skills which are very, very important for succeeding in the future market. Yes. Now, coming to the schools, what was a school earlier and how school is going to be in the future? Like earlier, the school was a place where it was fixed, first standard, this is the curriculum that you need to complete, and the children moved after clearing first standard, they would move to the second standard. So the every class was divided on time basis. So time was constant, years time, and the content was fixed. But what happened was, there was no there would be a child in the classroom that would learn only 10% of what was taught. The other child would learn say 50%, someone else would learn 90% or 100%. And then the students, when the assessments are done, the students are categorized as underperformers or average learners or brilliant students. So this is how schools or organizations, educational institutions function. But now learning is not constant. Like earlier, learning was constant and time. So learning is the constant now. It has to go on and on, but you have to master what you are learning. Like a person needs to learn all 100%. How much time he takes for learning that is not fixed. So a person might take say 3 months to learn a concept, whereas a different person might take 6 months to learn the same concept. Okay, but mastery has to happen. Until and unless mastery happens, you cannot move further. You cannot move on with incomplete knowledge or incomplete learning. So the thing is, the schools have got to change now. They cannot be limited by time. They need to be limited by learning. So equity has to set in, equity has to come in into the educational institutions, and students need to be tested based on that, because until and unless they master whatever is being taught, it is very difficult to move on. Okay, so traditional school was actually a place, so a noun, okay, where the content was delivered, testing was done, and progress was measured. But it is no longer going to be the same, right? Yes. So the school is now being redefined, where learning can happen at any place. You can learn from your home, you can learn from a remote village if connectivity is good, or anywhere in the world, and you can learn whatever you want. Okay, and it is about experiencing and learning, so it is all about doing. So school basically becomes a place where you socialize and you meet people, but for learning it is not essential that you need to go to the school. So distance learning, learning online, and learning from anywhere in the world is the in thing now, and we need to prepare ourselves and tell ourselves this is not going to change. So, school is no longer a place for learning. What are the skills now with which we can prepare our children, or with which we need to prepare ourselves if we really want to survive in this uncertain future? The three most important skills with which you can prepare yourself, your kids, are communication, comprehension, and computation. Now, communication skills, like when a small child is born, usually they start communicating by making sounds. And as they grow older, because communication is important, where what you are thinking, like you express it, it could be verbal or it could be in the written form. So, if a person has difficulty in expressing himself in written form, he should be at least able to communicate through words by speaking it out. And the thing is, it is important to communicate well, so that the people whom you are addressing get to understand what exactly are you thinking. Maybe in near future we would have gadgets, or through artificial intelligence, whatever we are thinking, our thoughts might be transmitted in the form of speech, so we might not even have to communicate. In order to communicate, we might not even have to speak. But for the moment, it is very important that we have excellent communication skills, either by speaking it out or by writing it out in words. And the other thing is comprehension. Yes, being able to read and understand is important. If a person has difficulty in reading, he can always listen to something, because you get audio files for everything these days. So a person should be able to listen and comprehend. And even for developing good socializing skills, the children or the adults should be able to read the body language of people. So it is very important to understand that, even because you come across lot of people, students, youngsters, who are not able to understand facial expressions or the body language, and because of which they start having socializing issues or difficulties or problems in life. So comprehension is a very important aspect in which, like, we need to really focus if the person has to survive in the uncertain future. And the third one is the computation skills. So the computation skill is not about programming or going into detailed coding or other things. Okay, but computation skill is basically being aware of what is the kind of information you need, which is the best way of finding that information from the internet, and how to really use that information for problem solving. So these kind of computation skills every child should develop in himself, in order to be successful, right? So basically these three important skills are there, and while we are at home we can actually start preparing our children in these three important skills in order to really prepare them for the future that awaits them. So the now what is the emerging role of teachers? The emerging role of teachers for the future is, from a content presenter and a test giver, they have to become co-learners. They have to start working with the students and helping them out, and as they work with the children, they also need to start learning along with them. Only when they are also learning with them, working alongside them, it would be really worth, and they will be able to compete with the rest of the world, because the market is now all thrown open and we are competing with the rest of the world. So when that kind of competition is there, you have to be learning all the time and preparing yourself, because you do not know what the future away is like going to be, huh? So one philosopher, Eric Hoffer, he said, in a time of drastic change, it is the learners who inherit the future. The learned usually find themselves equipped to live in a world that no longer exists. So the thing is, if we stop learning, or we feel that we already know whatever is needed to be done to be successful in our profession or in our career, in that case, we will very slowly be able to compete with the market that awaits us. So, for that, we will have to actually prepare ourselves and be lifelong learners. Only when we are learning progressively and preparing ourselves and equipping ourselves with the knowledge, then we will be able to counter the uncertainties that await us and the difficulties through which we are going to go, and face the challenges as really powerful and confident individuals. Okay, so now I am actually ready to take your before that, like, I would like to focus on these takeaways that are there from this webinar. The first one is, choose to lead a stress free life rather than managing stress. So a lot of times we say that, okay, I'm doing a course or a training program through which I need to manage stress. But the question here is, like, why would you want to manage something which is actually impacting you physiologically and causing a lot of difficulties in your life, impacting your cognitive process, affecting your thinking process, impacting your learning process? Why would you want to manage that in your life? So it is like clinging on to your problems. Problems everyone has, there is, as long as you are living, you have seen the ECG scan and all, when a person is fitted onto the life support system, the as long as you are alive, the line is goes zigzag, right? It is not straight. And when does it become straight? It becomes straight only, yes, you have left this world, you are right. Okay, so problems leave our life only when we leave this world. So we are going to have problems. But when we have problems, it is better to take a deep breath in, exhale, feel release, feel relaxed, and then think, can I solve this problem or not? If I can solve this problem, go ahead and solve it. If you feel that no, it is beyond my control, I cannot solve it, so then it is better to try and face it boldly. Because if you cannot avoid, either avoid it. If you cannot avoid it, then sorry, I'll just if you are not able to avoid the problem, in that case, you need to just face it with complete confidence and grit, not being afraid of failures. Lot of times I have seen, when you take the problem, like face the problem headlong, and you face it with strength, and you are trying to make the best out of it, deep within the problem, as you are solving it, you will find an opportunity hidden. So every problem has an opportunity hidden within it. So take up the challenges, take up the problems, try your best to solve it without getting stressed, and then you will find that opportunity which is hiding within it. Probably it is your test, and if you get that opportunity, grab it. You are going to grow as a person, more confident, because the experience will give you the wisdom to make you a confident and a better person who can take up challenges, who can handle uncertainties, and who is not going to be traumatized or afraid of uncertainties that await him. Okay? So, only a relaxed mind can handle crisis and think. So, please meditate, focus on yourself, focus on your mental health, and do a lot of breathing exercises. It really helps to stay relaxed and calm, because only then you can think, face problems, explore opportunities, and grow as a confident human being. Okay? Connect to your roots to build personal identity. Yes. Every religion in the world, almost it teaches the same thing, you know. So when you go deeper into it, you connect to your roots, because if you are just copying others or following other culture, you will never be able to understand your true personal identity, because you are just copying, you know. So in order to really establish your personal identity, connect to your roots. Like in our Gurukul system, ancient India, all these scriptures have given such beautiful, wonderful thoughts. And when we go through it, I just quoted one of them today here. Okay. When you go into it, deeper into it, you get so much of wisdom out of it, and it will actually help you to face the uncertainties of the future. Like all around the world now, you take the example of Germany, Russia, even in USA, they are actually going into the ancient Indian literature and reading that, and even the students are being taught those things. Why is that happening there? Because they have realized that there is so much of wisdom in our ancient Indian literature that would really help a person to handle the uncertainties, because we do not know what the future is going to be like. The education cannot prepare the children for what awaits them, but we can develop the skills in them, make them holistic human being who are really balanced in their mind, body, and soul. And only when we develop such holistic human beings, we will actually be able to prepare them for the future that awaits them. Okay, so survival requires mastery. You cannot be a mediocre in anything, whatever you do. You might be a carpenter, but be the best carpenter. You might be a singer, but be the best singer. You might be a dancer, be the best one. But do the best in whatever you do. So rather than following what others are doing, just introspect, look deep within yourself, and find your true identity. Once you have found it, it is magical journey, because you will enjoy every moment of your life. The effort that you put in might tire you physically and mentally, but then you will be satisfied. You will have a good night's sleep, because you have done something that gave you satisfaction. And satisfaction coupled with passion really makes your life worth living. And once you're happy, like a lot of people are doing workshops and other things for learning how to be happy, but we are all born happy individuals. We are destined to be happy. It is our, like we are as a small child, you would have seen how happy a child is. So the thing is, but as he grows older, he starts taking the problems as stress or difficulties in his life, and moves away from his true character. So happiness can be created within yourself. And once you start creating happiness within yourself, and you feel the love within yourself, you generate it and you become a giver rather than expecting and taking it from others. Because when you are expecting appreciation, acceptance, and approval from others, actually you remain a beggar for the whole of your life. But the thing is, when you start creating it within yourself, you establish your identity, you love yourself as a person, as who you are, then you start valuing yourself. When you value yourself, you are happy being who you are, and that happiness and that love is created within yourself. And when that is created within yourself, you become a giver. And in your environment, you will find happiness all around. You know, happiness spreads in your environment. So I would really want to tell you all in this webinar that become a creator of happiness, create love within yourself, connect to your roots, stay relaxed, stay calm, establish your true identity, and grow as a confident individual who is not afraid of taking challenges, who is not afraid of facing uncertainties, who is not afraid of anything in this world, because he is a lifelong learner and he is decided to be that. Thank you very much. I will take the questions now.
Thank you, ma'am. And all the attendees, please put your questions in the Q&A section. I think, ma'am, there are a few questions. Actually, there were some questions over here, but you can still check them out.
In which I would really want you all to tell me how would you rate this session. And in the meantime, I will start taking questions also. Because in the chat, there were a lot of comments, so it becomes easier to take up questions from the Q&A. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Dr. Rakesh, could you please just type your question here in Q&A? Otherwise, I'll have to scroll on the chat box to look at your question. Okay. So Anurag asks me, do you feel cognitive gaps has to be addressed seriously in school? See, the thing is, cognitive gaps need to be addressed in school, and a lot of schools are making efforts in that direction. But how, to what extent are they really able to meet the demands or the needs of the students? You know, because because most of the schools you will find are private schools and they have a lot of students, and it becomes really difficult to address the needs of the students in that manner. So they are trying very hard to do it, but it is difficult to meet the cognitive gaps, because we are assessing the children only on certain fixed criteria, which are like writing in the exams. Whatever you write in the exams, you are judged on that basis. Okay, so the thing is, when you are being judged only on that basis, it becomes difficult. But yes, if the students are given the freedom to express themselves verbally, it would really benefit children who are not able to write and express themselves, because there are a lot of very smart students. They are very bright, but they have difficulties in writing down things. Okay. Or like for that matter, I would give an example of a child who came to me when he was in 10th standard from a remote village in Tamil Nadu. This child had excellent auditory skills, but he had severe difficulty in reading and writing. He could not even write his own address or his father's name. So the thing is, after assessing him, I helped him to get certification from the government, where he could get exemption for during the exams, and he was given a tape recorder by the school. And this child used to record the lectures given by the teachers and listen to them. And he was a boarder in the school, and he used to listen to them, and he appeared for its board exams. And you won't believe it, he scored 75% marks. He's doing really well. He's a great artist, and his art and craft skills are excellent. So he aspires to become an artist in the future. So that is how it is, you know. Okay, so now the next question. Do you feel okay? How to avoid stress? Okay, here I have already told you. Please breathe in and breathe out. Focus. And now just consider, just introspect and think, why do you have this stress? Okay, it might relate to the problem. Can you solve that problem? Yes or no? If you can solve the problem, go ahead and solve it. If you cannot solve the problem, then Face it. How best can you face it? Introspect and look deep into it. When you are trying to solve it, you will find that automatically the problem, because what happens is, when you have a problem, you literally get submerged into it. It is like quicksand that keeps pulling you within itself. So rather than getting submerged into the problem, you look at it externally from outside as an observer. So once you, what you do is, lot of times it really helps, try to draw a mind map. Just try to figure out how this problem exists in my life and what are the steps that can be taken to solve the problem. So when in a like individualistic manner, extracting yourself out of the problem, when you think about solving it as a problem solver, you will surely find ways of really encountering that problem and remove stress out of your life. Because if you can't avoid stress, then you can't think. And if you can't think, you cannot solve your problem. So it's a vicious cycle. Don't trap yourself into that vicious cycle. Okay. So, next question. How can we have individual focus for pupils struggling with their cognitive skills? Okay, so the children struggling with their cognitive skills, these kids actually can be helped by professionals. Like if you are able to find professionals who are supporting these children, first thing is identification. If you are able to identify the why the child has problem, what is the root cause of his problem, most of the time what happens is, because you are forcing the child to do things for which he is not made. And like suppose you find a child who is a very good sportsman, okay, is very excellent in sports. So what you do is, you say that, oh, you are scoring very poor marks in exams, so it's better that you go and keep studying and you are not allowed to go and play sports. So what happens is, this child loses interest and he is perennially under stress. So because of that, his cognitive skills are actually going to drop. It is not going to improve. So let him play and find alternative ways where he can work on his weaknesses and difficulties at the same time. But then tell him, okay, yes, these are your weaknesses or your areas on which you need to really work. And it is good, okay, to make mistakes. Make progress at a slower pace. Don't compare him with anybody. So first, accept the child the way he is. And once you have accepted the child the way he is, and you focus on his strengths, let him explore his strengths and train himself in that, and simultaneously support him in overcoming his weaknesses or the areas in which he has problems, slowly, step by step. Then you will find changes in happening in the children. We are seeing it on a daily basis in our kids. So it can be done. In this scenario, teachers with great teaching skill become absolute, what is this, because of limited technology? Oh, Prema, I think you want to say, will they become obsolete, like, or out of the market for limited technology? See, it's not about this. The thing is, good teachers can connect to the students, because that's what I said. Human bond and connection is something which is missing in online learning, through coaching institutes that are flourishing in the market because they have technology. You might have limited technology, but this is the time where you need to really connect with the children. The children should feel your presence. They should feel that bonding with you while you are taking classes online for them. And these children, because they love their teachers and they are connected with you so well, they will say to their parents that, please, I want to attend the online classes that are being conducted by my teachers, rather than rather than going and for any online coaching institute or attending classes there. So that will happen. Okay. Yeah. So now what is this? Aditi has asked, is making categories of students on the basis of learning to identify kids with special abilities not a good way? If yes, how to better communicate it with kids so that it does not create a difference among them? See, now Aditi, what we do usually in school is, first identify their strengths. When we have identified their strengths, we tell them, you are excellent in this. So the areas that they are good at, whenever a concept is being taught, Howard Gardner spoke about multiple intelligence styles of learning. So learning can happen in different ways in a child. It is only the expression that where the children usually find it difficult. So if a teacher is actually offering lessons using multiple intelligence like dance, drama, and art, integration is something which is the in thing and which is really going to work well with the students. So using those methods, when you reach out to the children and the students understand the concept, then give them the freedom to express themselves, their understanding. So they can use any medium for expressing what they have understood. It could be through drama, it could be through dance, it could be through a presentation. It could be teamwork that is actually happening now. Like if you do any course from MIT or other international university, and all online courses are there where I see all these things happening, where group work is happening. So their age is not the bar, or the time is not the bar criteria, but it is the learning which is happening. Different people are learning at their own pace, and they are using different medium for expressing their what they have learned from that platform. So we need to focus on that even in the schools. And now since the lockdown is there, and how long it is going to continue, we don't know. So the assessment system, the pattern that was there in the schools and colleges, has to change. It has to change because you can't have the same 3 hours of written assessment where the children are sitting and writing down questions and answers. You will have to have PowerPoint presentations or children creating their own videos to showcase their understanding. And I think this would be a really welcome change for the students who had difficulties in the real classrooms, where we had fixed ways of assessing students. Yeah. Define the role of parents in digital learning. Yeah. Well, the role of parents in digital learning is like, parents need to really focus on developing these three C's in their children, because teenagers, especially if you are standing next to them and talking to them, trying to find out what they are browsing or what they are doing, so spying on the children is not going to work out. Because like if they want to really browse through the sites where they don't want the parent to get to know it, they can do it at any time. So it is really difficult to keep spying on the children and all those things. But when digital learning is concerned, they should have the skills to comprehend. They should have the skills to find out the relevant information from the net, and they should be able to use that information for creating the content or solve the problems that have been given to them. So like encourage your children to type out whatever content you would want them to, encourage them to create their own blogs, encourage them to come up with ideas where they could have group discussions among their peer or with their friends, or online discussions on healthy topics. When you start doing that, their communication skills will also improve, and they will start learning. Because when you are trying to answer questions or you are trying to solve problem online, the children really want to show that they are smart. When that happens, they are actually browsing and looking out for information and finding it. And we have noticed that happening with our children. So give them the window where limited time is there, and okay, now within this time I would like you to find out the meaning of this word or find out this information. So let them browse and come up with the information and share it. And when that happens, actually learning happens on its own. They become actually hungry for learning, and it goes on in the children. Yeah. So the next question is, do you really think that online teaching can make a real impact in slow learners? Actually, I would not consider any person as a slow learner. I don't know what you mean when you say a slow learner, because here, now, as I said, learning is no longer limited to time. If a person is learning slowly, Let him learn slowly, but whatever he is learning, let him master that first. So learning is no longer limited to time. When it's not limited to time, you cannot call anybody a slow learner. Okay. So I would not consider any person as a slow learner here. Probably he has some other skills. So he might have difficulty in maybe in reading. If he has difficulty in reading, now he can listen, ask Google questions verbally and listen to the audio. And that's why it's very important to develop language skills in children where they are able to comprehend the language that is the medium of instruction or the language in which they are trying to collect the information. So good knowledge is very important there of language. So if they have that skill in them, they will start learning at their own pace, and on their own, and they will master the skill that they are trying to master. So I would not consider any person as a slow learner as such. Okay, so I don't know if I have covered all the questions. I'm not sure. Uh, Suruchi, can you guide me if I've covered all the questions or there are any other questions that are still pending?
Uh, I think all the Q and A's have been answered,
Okay.
but if anyone wants to ask any more questions, obviously Preeti ma'am is here, and we still have 5 more minutes, so you can
Okay.
the
Okay.
attendees can ask the questions. Definitely,
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
there is one in chat.
Okay, okay. I'll just go to it now. Okay. In the meantime, the people whose questions have been answered, I'm just starting the poll. Okay, okay. The poll was done, I think. Okay, great. Yeah, I'll just take the question now. Okay, okay. This looks like a student who is asking her teacher, "Ma'am, is there any class tomorrow?" Okay. How can you work on comprehension? Okay. So, Selvarani, actually working on comprehension, these questions could be addressed later on in a different forum where we will talk about study skills and how comprehension, reading skills, and other things can be improved in students. But that can be done. Okay. So, it is about language acquisition in children, and language acquisition in children can happen. So a very simple example I can give you here is like if a child is reading a sentence, ask the child what he has understood out of it from the sentence. So once the child expresses what he understands, then you will be able to check whether his perception is clear or not. So if the perception is accurate, then the child is on the right track. If you feel that no, he has not understood, probably there are words in that sentence that the child does not understand. Those words are not in his vocabulary. Okay. So if that is the case, then the vocabulary is poor and it is difficult for the child to understand. So we will have to work on vocabulary and those skills. Only then the comprehension improves. Sometimes it is about attention span, and attention span gets impacted mainly because the child is finding the activity stressful. So for that, again, you need to work on the root cause for the stress, and that will be like that way you will be able to help the child. Yeah. So now some more questions are there. Define the role of, okay, this is done. Do you really think that online? Okay, this is also done. Okay, now Mr. Tripathi asks, Shiba asks me, do you support online classes where network connectivity problem is an issue? See, Shiba, where network connectivity is a problem, you cannot help it because even we have certain students in our school who are in village, stuck in villages now, and they are having trouble. They are not able to access the online classes. But then what do? We are not able to help out these students. So that's what the future demand is like. This is the in thing, and it is going to stay because like it might take 2 years, it might take 3 years. COVID is here to stay. If it lasts here for 100 years, what will you do? Social distancing and all these norms are there. So it will become more and more difficult. And online learning has become the in thing, and it is in a, like, if you really want to compete and train yourself and learn, then you need to have a good Wi-Fi connection. So you cannot avoid it. It has become a necessity now. So you get my point. So online learning is the in thing, and it is here to stay. So if you are not tuning yourself to this situation and preparing yourself for it, you will have a lot of hardships and problems. So we cannot avoid it. Do you think informal education is the need of our over university or formal education? See, the thing is, when problems are there, the schools and colleges are shut down, the economy is in a bad shape, we do not know how the future is going to be. Yes, personal connect where the teacher is there and you are personally able to connect with the students, it is always a welcome thing. And personal contact. We are all social beings, so we like that personal connect. But the thing is, if the situation is such that it is very difficult for that personal contact to happen in person, due to physical distancing that needs to be maintained, we do not know how the future is going to be, then you will have to adapt yourself to the situation. And the sooner we prepare ourselves for both the situations, the better it is going to be. Okay. Now, Shiva asks, everyone tells about passion, but how to get it of an individual? Okay, so the thing is, what gives you the maximum happiness? Find out. Like, I would say sometime when I do gardening, it gives me a lot of happiness. When I see my plants growing, I feel very happy. It gives me a lot of happiness when I'm interacting with people. uh, it gives me a lot of happiness when I'm reading books. So explore your interests. What gives you a lot of happiness? A person might love eating good food and might love to cook. Okay, so that means his passion lies in that. Let him be the expert cook in the world. Let him train himself in that area. So this is something which is very personal and individual. If you need some outsider to tell you what you are good at, what is your strength, then it is certainly a problem, because you need to look within yourself. If you can't understand yourself, how is it that you're going to connect with the outside world or connect with other individuals? Because understanding yourself, your strengths, your passion is the and foremost duty that we have towards ourselves. So first do that duty of understanding yourself. So this lockdown is a good time to really introspect, look within yourself, find out your strengths, and I'm sure you will be able to discover your passion. I found mine. Why can't you? Everyone can do that. Yes. Aditi asks, teachers trying online teaching for the first time are facing cyber abuse from the students. What would you tell the students on this part, and how should teachers cope up with this? It is really unfortunate this is happening, Aditi. Yes, I am also aware of this kind of abuse that is happening. But why do you think this is happening? Probably the value system is missing somewhere down the line. And why is this value system missing in children? The problem is when a child is 2.5 years old, he is sent to school. The both the parents, most of the families, it's nuclear families. There are no grandparents. The mother goes to office, the father goes to office. They hardly have time to spend with the child. And when the child comes back from school, either he goes to a daycare center, or the parents are so tired that they have hardly any time, quality time to spend with the child. So what would happen? The value system is not developing in the children. And what do the children read? Even in the textbooks that are provided, we are reading only about Mughal invasion. Maximum history books, they have Mughal invasion, the British invasion, the freedom struggle. Hardly there is a chapter on, there will be 2-3 pages on ancient India, and 1 or 2 pages on Ashoka, and the Bhakti movement and other things. So when that is the case, obviously, how do you think the students would develop value in them? So that human values are missing. They derive sadistic pleasures in doing this. So it is something, it's a challenge. Yes, it's certainly a challenge. But then how can we overcome this or change this is only by working on our future generation, by connecting them to the roots. Connecting to the roots is the answer. That is the only answer, I think. Yes. Any other question? I think I'm done. I've answered all the questions. Suruchi?
Hello. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, yeah, Suruchi? I think we are done, or there is any other question?
I think we are done. I think there is one more question just came in.
Okay, okay. Okay, Lopamudra has asked if online teaching is the norm in the current situation. Okay, okay, one second. In the current situation, then how to reach out to those children who need some special attention. Lopamudra, actually, we are already doing it in our school. What we are doing is the teachers are actually going online, and it those are like video sessions where the children also come online. They are able to see each other, they chat with each other, they speak to each other. So that is actually helping the children learn. And you have to do a lot of work on your lesson plans, because only a very strong lesson plan where you have lot of activities which are online and it is interactive, in the sense the children get an opportunity to make their presentation. Like, you might explain a very simple concept to the child, and once you've explained that simple concept to the child, if you tell them, okay, now can you present it in your own way, so give the task, and the teachers are actually creating short videos of themselves teaching concepts to the children and posting it. And once the children see their teacher teaching that concept, a video of of the teacher, rather than a video which has been borrowed or taken from the YouTube. So when they see the teacher doing it, and then they are asked to respond, and they are asked to create their own videos and post it, so students are getting the role, getting to play the role of a teacher. So it encourages the student, and each one wants to come forward and gets his want to get take that opportunity of presenting. Yes. uh, Now next.
I think we
Yeah,
are
we
done.
have done, we have done. Okay, thank you, everybody. My email ID is here in case if any of you has any question and you would want me to answer that, you can post it to my email ID. Okay. Thank you very much, Suruchi.
Great. Thank you, ma'am, for coming here today and delivering such an informative session. Clearly, a lot of people had a lot of questions regarding what the education system is going to be after this lockdown or post this pandemic. Thank you, all the attendees, as well, for coming in and supporting Preeti ma'am, asking good questions. I wish to see you all very soon. I would also like to tell you all, if you are more interested into concentration and learning skills, we have another webinar tomorrow morning, which will focus on learning skills and concentration for kids. Okay. Thank you all. And on this note, I would like to end the session.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Suruchi.